In the UK today, there are 4 million type 2 diabetics, and some estimate 12 million people that are pre-diabetic. You could well be one of those. If that's the case, then today we're going to explore what can be done to reverse diabetes. Today I've got Graham Phillips, founder of Pro Longevity.
Hi.
Graham. Graham, clearly if somebody is diabetic or has been told they're pre-diabetic, they'll have a lot of concern, and obviously it feels like it might well be a one-way ticket to a very uncomfortable life ahead. What's the truth about diabetes? Can it be reversed?
Absolutely. So the myth, and it's a myth that I bought into, and most health professionals have been educated this way, is that pre-diabetes always leads to diabetes, and diabetes is a long-term condition that only ever gets worse, and you're going to suffer it, for the rest of your life and have to take tablets and then more tablets. Completely untrue. What the latest science is showing is that diabetes is a lifestyle disease. And the problem is this: we health professionals, we're trained in terms of drugs and drug treatments and symptoms. We're not trained in terms of sleep, exercise, and we know very little about nutrition. So we reach for the tablets inevitably, but the truth is that diabetes is mainly driven by a diet, a typical Western diet that's high in processed food, sugar and carbs. And that's the fundamental principle. That's an oversimplification, but once you understand that fundamental principle, you can then start to make changes in your lifestyle. And absolutely, we are finding we can get pre-diabetics away from diabetes completely. We're reversing type 2 diabetes down to pre-diabetes and in remission. So you're not curing it, but you can be in permanent remission and effectively not have diabetes at all.
Now, we've met each other and discussed backgrounds. My background was in wellness too, having worked on wellness products. You couldn't probably tell it by looking at me today. But one thing I understand from the science is there's no one size fits all to tackling the subject of how people respond to different foods.
Yeah.
Exactly what is going on? What is your take on how you manage this reversal of diabetes, given one size doesn't fit all?
Yeah, you're very right. So the NHS approach, and the latest thing is these drinks and shakes, crazy sort of approach, I think, is a one size fits all approach.
Right.
It simply doesn't work in diabetes, and here's the reason why. If you give 100 people an identical meal, you would think that by and large all 100 people would react the same in terms of what it does to their blood sugar. Actually, people have equal and opposite reactions, often very bizarre. And the reason for that is it's actually driven not by you, but by the microbiome, the bugs in your gut. I won't say too much more about that. Just accept the principle that people react equal and opposite ways to the same food. You can't tell. But what we do is we provide a continual glucose monitor. So we can then tie together, A, what's your lifestyle in general terms, B, the test that your GP's probably done, see how you're feeling. Are you feeling, not as good as usual? Are you tired? Are you a bit more thirsty? Is your sleep poor? So that's another indicator. Combined with the nature of what you're eating, and we are able to monitor your individual responses to food. And then what we do is, instead of putting you on a diet and telling you to cut calories and be hungry all the time and make you feel guilty, because you're not, it's not your fault, it's all got to do with your hormones, we can change all of that. So once we can understand which foods are bad for you as an individual, might be completely different from your partner or your next door neighbour, and we can correct that, we can help you make healthy choices. So what we're not saying to you is don't eat this, don't eat that. What we're actually saying is, here's a whole load of foods that you really enjoy, have more of those instead.
What's your success rate with this approach?
Really, we haven't really had a failure yet. It's early days. We've had 100 people through the system. In the next 12 months, we want to get 1,000 people through the system. We're collecting data all the time because at the end of the day, I'm a health professional and a scientist, and I want to have evidence that I can show. But we've had almost no failures. the people who do the best are the ones who get the most engaged. It's like anything else. You know, you can kind of abdicate the whole thing,
Sure.
go to the doctor and just rely on the tablets. And the trouble with that is it only will ever get worse. Or you can really engage with your health and your lifestyle and make changes. And, you know, actually the results are pretty revolutionary, in fact.
Okay. Being a bit cynical, you're a commercial person, you're a pharmacist,
Yeah.
you own a very successful pharmacy business. Are you up against the medical professionals who pour scorn on anybody treading into their territory? And what backing do you have? Who in the medical profession has taken a view of what you're doing?
I think I'm up against two huge paradigms, right? You think about the smoking industry and all that's gone on there, and we're finally pushing them away, aren't we? The two huge paradigms I'm up against is big food and big pharma.
Right.
My message is eat real food, not processed food, and the food industry makes most of its money from the processed food with much higher margins.
Right.
And the pharmaceutical companies off the back of that, and I'm not suggesting it's intentional, but cause and effect is, so the food makes you ill and the drug companies don't cure you, but you keep taking medication, and the medication, statins for example, $1 trillion business. And the problem is this: the food industry educates the dietitians by and large. The pharmaceutical industry educates the health professionals. So we're used to this kind of paradigm. So yes, I'm up against a huge paradigm shift, a huge vested interest. But hey, I quite like David and Goliath odds. Sometimes, you know, the tortoise and the hare, whichever example you want, I think we can do this because the evidence is with us and the results are for all to see. Now, there's a huge national and even international movement now. So there's quite a lot, you know, doctors, health professionals, at the end of the day, we want to do our best for our patients and our clients. And there's a growing band of us, both in the UK and beyond, who realise what the science actually says, just as there was a band of people who realised that smoking wasn't actually a healthy activity, although it was marketed as such. And we're going to work together to change the world.
So you're not advocating a silver bullet, a miracle cure.
No.
What you're doing is you're analysing the individual's response to their food, their environment, their own biology, and the way they are. Because obviously, I don't know if I drink a lot, that's probably going to affect my gut. I don't know, and maybe my response to sugars.
Absolutely right. So it's quite interesting. The same pathway that metabolises alcohol also metabolizes fructose, which is the fruit sugar.
Right.
So if you're one of these people that likes to have innocent smoothies and then a couple of pints over work, after work, it's the same metabolic pathway. Both of them hit the liver. So I'm not a boxer, but it's like an uppercut and then a thrust. So you're hitting your liver from two directions. It's the same metabolic pathway. So that's a negative synergy, as an example.
Great. So there are lots of ways that you can engage with Graham. There's a very simple interactive questionnaire that will tell you to what degree you might well be at risk. And also you can just simply contact Graham and have a free consultation. But do make sure that you are subscribed to the series. We're going to have lots of myth-busting pieces and lots of education for anybody that has any concern at all about diabetes. So from myself and Graham at Pro Longevity, bye for now.
Thank you.